I am not bossy, I am the boss.
Well, these nails are very gross. I have to paint them. Alright, done. Yay.
Now let's move on and let's start this video.
Something in my eye. There's a stupid wasp flying everywhere inside my porch. It's freaking me out.
So finally I am filming this long-awaited video. Everybody wanted to know what happened after I got married to that guy. So let's get on with it. First of all, I want to apologize beforehand because I didn't write anything down. Sorry. After I got married, first he was let's start over. When he was telling me to escape, to go with him, you know, and get married, and he was trying to convince me, he was telling me that we were gonna live on our own, that he was gonna rent an apartment in Puerto Rico. At that time I was in Florida living with my parents. We got married in Miami and then we moved to Puerto Rico and we were gonna live there because I wanted to study at an university in Puerto Rico and it's a lot easier over there to study and blah blah blah, whatever. His dad and I didn't get well because he lived with his dad still and he was 25 years old at that time. He was promising and that's how I ended up accepting and just leaving and saying okay. He was saying if you don't like living with him for sure, then we were gonna look for our own place, I promise. No, and you'll see what the heck happened. If you haven't watched that video where I run away from home and get married to this guy, I'm gonna leave a link in the description box down below and you can click on that video, watch it first, and then come back to this video because you're not gonna, know the whole story. So when we landed in Puerto Rico, the first thing we did was go to that house, obviously, and I just have to say this disclaimer. I don't want to disrespect his dad's memory, even though like all of this happened. I'm not that kind of person and I just don't want any disrespect. If anybody ever gets to see this video that knows this guy, he and his family knows this about this video, I am very sorry for your loss. This is just my experience, this is just my memories, and I just want to share it with people. But this was in the past and things happen, but it's just a video I want to make. I have the right to express my feelings and share my experiences with people if I want to. Moving on, where was I? So the first thing I saw was his face and I felt so uncomfortable since the first day. Things weren't good, never. We had our room, but there was no privacy at all, like none. He worked all morning till like 2 p.m. So I would stay by myself with his dad. I'm telling you that the things I heard, the things I had to go through every single day were the worst things I've ever been through in my life. And to say that is pretty harsh because really anything else could be worse than that, but nothing. I can't think of anything that's worse than that specific experience living with this man. I will be in my room as soon as, let's call him Carl. That's a really weird name. for him. Anyway, Carl, my ex-husband, you know. And let's call the father-in-law Dan. Carl would leave for work early in the morning, about 5 or 6 a.m. and I would sleep till like 9, because anyway I couldn't sleep longer than that, because he would be knocking on my door very loudly, telling me to wake up and make him breakfast. So I wasn't studying still because I hadn't done the application and all that admission stuff, so I would be there all day. Just going to the living room or the kitchen would be so uncomfortable with this man, because like the vibes that he would give me were like he was looking at me with other eyes. This video is actually turning to be how it was living with my father-in-law, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mix both videos, because I was actually gonna talk about this in another video, but it actually has to do with everything, so I'm just gonna talk about everything in this video, and it's probably gonna be a long video. I will be so uncomfortable the entire day, every single day for 2.5 years. That's how long I lasted. The things I had to do were I had to make him breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and it wouldn't be asked in a nice way. It wouldn't be a normal experience just to be there cooking while he was there looking at me creepily, what? How do you say that? Creepily? Anyway, when I like finished cooking or whatever, I just wanted to be in my room and just lock the door and just be there all day, and didn't want to see him at all. Even the first weeks was like that. Everything that he said and everything that he did and the way he said things were so rude and so weird and strange, and I don't know, it was a very Carl showed me how to drive and everything, so I started driving to school. Sorry if I'm looking that way, like the day is so beautiful. I used to study in this university that would be about 30 minutes away. We'd both go study at night. Even if that's not relevant, that's actually part of the story, because I used to be the entire day alone with Dan. Carl would get home, take a shower, go to sleep, then we would go to school at night. So basically I wouldn't spend that much time with him, I wouldn't see him that much. So it was like that for about 8 months. And then we decided to live in Miami. So I was so happy that finally I didn't have to live with Dan anymore. And we were actually gonna live with his sister now. And everything was pretty awesome. His sister was a very awesome woman, and she took us in, and she was very lovely to me, and she was a very awesome person. Also her husband, and we had an amazing time over there in Miami. But things started to go a little bit wrong when she started seeing that I wasn't like a complete woman, that I wouldn't do things that a normal wife would do, like cook and be very... I do admit that I wasn't the best wife, because I was 19 years old when that happened. With my dad being so strict and my mom, she would give us all and we didn't have to do anything. Like, it was like a mix of things that actually made me be kind of the way I was. I don't know how to explain that. Like, I would love to learn. They just never gave me the opportunity. So she started not loving me anymore, and we started having problems, and I would be so freaking sad, because I really loved her. I just don't want to get into that. We found our own jobs and we got our own apartment. I was commuting on bus, train, and metro rail to go to work every morning at 7:30 a.m. There's a story that I want to tell you guys that happened at my job that I had in Miami. For this same week, I'll make a story time for that. What happened was that because of what happened to me at that job, we decided to go back to Puerto Rico, and Carl was so decided to leave that he didn't even tell his sister at all, and she ended up being mad with me because she thought it was me. Took him away from her because she loved, and she still loves him, I guess, because she loves him. So we ended up again in Dan's house, and this time we actually got like a separate apartment behind the house, but it was like together with the house, but like a separate section. I don't know how to explain that. And it was the same thing. He would want me to cook for him. I would be at his house area anyway. It was the same. I just, what's the point? We just had a different room, but it was the same. The house would get so freaking disgusting and nobody cleaned it. Nobody. Like, the house would be so freaking gross. Gross. The grossest thing I've ever seen. And nobody would clean. Like, for months, nobody would clean. And I would have to be the one cleaning. And I just didn't want to, because it's not fair that I would have to be a slave to that freaking huge house. It was an old house. The only times I cleaned were like 2 or 3 times the first months. And it would be so gross the next day. So I just started not wanting to clean anymore. And things started to go really, really wrong when I just started to not want to do things. I didn't want to cook. I didn't want to clean. I didn't want to see his face at all. So I just started to be a really bitchy person. And I wouldn't tell him to his face, but I would tell Carl to tell him. And I wouldn't want to see him at all. I would be locked in my room. I turned into a totally different person just because of that stupid experience. It was horrible. And that's where I started with my depression.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
My depression at that time was different from the one I had before when I was like 15 because of my dad, and that's a different story. This depression made me eat so much. I would eat so much junk food. That was how I could deal with it, and it would make me feel better. I ended up gaining about 30 to 35 pounds in like 6 months. And after that, I was just pretty big. I would just be in my room all day, locked in there, eating my sadness. That's how bad it was. Some things that I had to live were hearing his stories about how he would have sex with, I don't know if I should say this, but nobody has to know who he is. And if nobody comments here saying that I'm talking about his dad or anything like that, nobody would ever know who he was. So just don't comment here. He would just tell me these stories how he would have sex with these Dominican teenagers, and he was 83 years old. That just traumatized me so bad in a way that I would be so disgusted just looking at him, and I wouldn't want to be around him even more. Like, it was a lot worse. I don't know why he would tell me these stories. I didn't care. Disgusting stories. He would do this yearly. Just go to the Dominican Republic about 2 times a year for 3 months.
That is so gross. I don't even, that is so wrong. I don't even want to think about it anymore.
Moving on, like really. This man was so repulsive. It still bothers me to even think about him. That's how our marriage got ruined, really. He didn't want to leave his dad. I would tell him all this stuff that he did to me and all the things that I would go through when I was with him alone. Even he would fight with his dad a lot, and he would be pissed at him a lot with all this shit that he did. Dan would say he didn't feel like an old man. He was okay that he was this and he was that, and he would be dancing and he would be like, I didn't feel bad for him. I didn't. If we left him by himself, I didn't feel bad for him because he knew how to cook. He said he was well. He didn't have any diseases. He didn't drink any pills or anything. He was okay. It wasn't that I didn't want Carl to take care of his dad. Like, he could have taken care of his dad. I just wanted a different apartment somewhere else, far away from him. And he could just visit him whenever he wanted, or take care of him if he wanted. But I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to take care of him or do anything. I didn't want to be there. And one time we did move to a different apartment. Like, we did try. We just moved too close. It was too close. Dan would drive to our apartment every day to be there bothering the shit out of me. It was the same thing. What the heck? And we just ended up moving back with Dan because we were wasting our money on that rent. I prefer to pay and I prefer to go far away, but it never happened that way. Into about 1.5 years to 2 years of marriage, we started to fight a lot. We started having the same discussions about his dad, about how much I didn't want to be around him, about how much I wanted to move, about everything, and nothing never changed. One of the things that I don't regret was that with him I could actually experience the world, you know, like the streets, not the streets like the, oh my god, the streets, but I would actually go out, party, drink. I even tried weed. Yes, I tried weed. I used to do that. Sorry, mom and dad, if you watch this, or family members, sorry, but that's what I used to do when I was married. He was a bad influence, yes, but I did get to do a lot of things that I thought I would never do because of my dad and because I was so in this little bubble and never knew nothing about nothing, because I could never learn nothing. Thanks to that I actually ran away and just left home and just did all these crazy things with Carl. I did learn a lot of things, and I grew up a lot, and my mind changed a lot, and I became a stronger, smarter, a totally different person. A lot more serious. I'm a lot more scared. That's not good. You know, everything happens for a reason. I divorced him in 2011 and I got married in 2009. Actually, the divorce came out in 2012. It was mutual. The divorce wasn't bad. Our relationship was pretty bad, all because of his dad. All I can say to you guys is, if you want to get married or if you have this boyfriend, just do things right. Get your own together first. Get everything you need together. Get married well and go have your own life in your own apartment. I don't think I can add anything else to this. It's a pretty long video as it is. Thank you so much for watching. I know this video wasn't funny or it wasn't like very entertaining, but hopefully you learned something. Like, this could actually happen to you. All this weird, strange, I'm gonna leave, and then finally we'll get home.